Thank you for continuing on to part 2. So let's finish our Wednesday's task and answer question number 3. As you know right now, if you follow along with the first video, we have Cassie's mom who's explaining to her, because Cassie basically asks, right, like, why would Mr. Sims treat me like that? Like, why did he push me? And then her response back is, because he thinks Lily and Jean's better than you are. And then when Cassie's like, her? Like, how could she, she insults her. And then Mama tells her, Cassie, I didn't say that Lily and Jean's better than you. I said Mr. Sims only thinks she is. So kind of like clarifying for her, like, that's his daughter. Like, he thinks that she's better. And then let's see. We're here, so let's keep going. Just because she's his daughter, I asked, beginning to think Mr. Sims was a bit touched in the head. No, baby, because she's white. Mama's hold tightened on mine, but I exclaimed, ah, shoot, white ain't nothing. Mama's grip did not lessen. It is something, Cassie. White is something just like black is something. Everybody born on this earth is something, and nobody, no matter what color, is better than anybody else. Then how come Mr. Sims don't know that? Because he's one of those people who has to believe that white people are better than black people to make himself feel big. I stared questioningly at Mama, not really understanding. Mama squeezed my hand and explained further. You see, Cassie, many years ago when our people were first brought from Africa in chains to work as slaves in this country, like Big Mouth's Papa and Mama? Mama nodded. Yes, baby. Like Papa Luke and Mama Rachel, except they were born right here in Mississippi, but their grandparents were born in Africa, and when they came, there were some white people who thought that it was wrong for any people to be slaves. So the people who needed slaves to work in their fields and the people who were making money bringing slaves from Africa preached that black people weren't really people like white people were, so slavery was all right. They also said that slavery was good for us because it taught us to be good Christians, like the white people. She sighed deeply, her voice fading into a distant whisper. But they didn't teach us Christianity to save our souls, but to teach us obedience. They were afraid of slave revolts, and they wanted us to learn the Bible's teachings about slaves being loyal to their masters. But even teaching us Christianity didn't make us stop wanting to be free, and many slaves ran away. Papa Luke ran away, I reminded her, thinking of the story of how great-grandpa had run away 3 times. He had been caught and punished for his disobedience, but his owners had not tried to break him, for he had the knowledge of herbs and cures. He had tended both the slaves and the animals of the plantation, and it was from him that Big Mouth had learned medicines. Mama nodded again. That's right, honey. He was hiding in a cave when freedom came, so I understand. She was silent in a moment, then went on. Well, after a while, slavery became so profitable to people who had slaves, and even to those who didn't, that most folks decided to believe that black people really weren't people like everybody else. And when the Civil War was fought, and Mama Rachel and Papa Luke and all the other slaves were freed, people continued to think that way. Even the Northerners who fought the war didn't really see us equal to white people. So now, even though 70 years have passed in slavery, most white people still think of us as they did then, that we're not as good as they are. And people like Mr. Sims hold on to that belief harder than some other folks because they have little else to hold on to. For him to believe that he's better than we are makes him think that he's important, simply because he's white. So I think it's a good time to start highlighting some important things that she says, right? I think that last part is really important that she's saying, kind of explain why a lot of people, why some people might be racist. And I think that we said we're going to highlight this color. Okay, I'm going to record here where it says, for him to believe that he's better than we are makes him think that he's important. So I'm going to highlight that one. Because that's kind of explaining to her. If you guys go back to her question, it's really asking, let's see, how does Mama explain what happened in Strawberry? Okay, so far she's kind of explaining to Cassie, where the racism kind of stems from, right? So here we said, she even says, even Northerners who helped to fight the war don't really see black people equal to white people, so I think that's important. Let's see what else. she mentions, like, where this all came from. And I think that here it says their grandparents were born in Africa, and when they came, there were some white people who thought it was wrong for any people to be slaves. So the people who needed slaves to work in the fields, and the people who were making money bringing slaves from Africa, preached that black people weren't really like white people, so slavery was all right. So this part's really important because it's justifying why they treat black people so poorly. And then she tells her that Mr. Sims is one of those people who has to believe that white people are better than black people to make himself feel big. So I think, and then it kind of all starts with her saying that Mr. Sims thinks that Lillian Jean's better because she's white. Okay, so let's finish up our reading for today, and then we'll move on to answer the question. Oh, we're almost there. Okay, we were right here. Mama relaxed her grip. I knew that she was waiting for me to speak. There was a sinking feeling in my stomach, and I felt as if the world had turned itself upside down with me in it. Then I thought of Lillian Jean, and a surging anger gurgled upward, and I retaliated. Well, they ain't. But I leaned closer to Mama, anxiously hoping that she would agree with me. Of course they aren't, Mama said. White people may demand our respect, but what we give them is not respect, but fear. What we give to our own people is far more important because it's given freely. Now, you may have to call Lillian Jean Miss because the white people say so, but you'll also call our own ladies at church Miss because you really do respect them. Okay, so I think that's the last point is like important too, because she's basically saying that, the way that they act is more out of fear than respect, which is a really big deal. Okay, so a lot of good pieces of evidence. We just got to choose one. If you want to choose your own and go from there, then of course you can. Know that there's a lot of different ways that you can answer this question. So, how are we going to choose? You can take a moment to pause here to choose your own, or continue on with me. Okay, after thinking about it, I'm going to choose the one that's on page 28, where it says that Mr. Sims is one of those people who thinks that white people are better than black people to make himself feel big. As I told you, you can choose your own quote because there's plenty of others you can choose to answer this. So I'm going to go back to in the text. It says, paste this without my... So this is page 28. So this means that Mr. Sims was rude to Cassie because... So here's like where you have to like kind of explain this in your words, right? So because he is racist. That would be a simple way to explain it, or however else you want to describe that. Okay, this shows that Mama is trying to so here you're trying to see, like, so how does she explain what happens to Strawberry? Like, at this point in the conversation, Mama's basically letting Cassie know about racism, right? She's trying to open her eyes to why they get treated unfairly sometimes. So, anything like that. The mom was trying to explain to Cassie that... Now, this question does have, like, the do you agree or disagree with her? So that's definitely your opinion. So just think about your own thoughts. Like, do you agree with what Mama's telling Cassie? Why or why not? And that's where you would just end it with, like, I agree or I disagree. Because... and just say why. Okay, so that will conclude our video for today. Thank you for those of you who are watching.